Well, lucky for us, we can ask him right now. The great Connor Joe joins the program. Good morning, my friend. It's good to see you again.
Thanks for having me.
There you go. Welcome.
Thanks.
So how's the first, couple of weeks been as a member of the San Diego Padres?
It's been great. Getting in this clubhouse, getting to know the guys, getting acclimated with the staff and familiar with them. It's always kind of a learning curve, learning their style and how they provide information and whatnot. So that's been good, getting settled in here, and it's good to be back on the field and just play baseball.
You get nervous with a new team. You've been with new teams before. You get nervous. Like, is it nerves? Is it excitement? What is it? A combo of both? What is it?
I think excitement, right? Like, I don't think it's really nerves. I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's just 40 guys, right? Like, I've walked into plenty of new clubhouses. I've done it essentially my whole career. I've had, a couple times where I've walked back into the same clubhouse, which is also great for familiarity, and have made great relationships with guys on the Rockies and the Pirates. So to go back is really nice. But no, I think playing against these guys and having familiarity with them helped a lot. At the end of the day, it's just a bunch of dudes, right?
Yeah, 100%. Just play baseball, which you've been doing your whole life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Connor, obviously you grew up in Poway, and we're a Padres fan, I understand, growing up. But when you become a professional, I think it's hard for fans to understand. You have to give up all of that. When you're on a team, that's your team.
Yeah.
But now that you're back, is it more than just, it's just my next stop on my professional career? Is there still something there in terms of like that memory of your childhood?
Of course. Yeah. I don't think you lose that, right? Okay. Like, obviously I was drafted by the Pirates in 2014, and growing up a Padres fan my whole life, like, I'm not a Padres fan at that point.
Right.
Right? Like,
you want to beat the Padres.
Yeah. And then becoming a big leaguer I was Giants. I made my debut in San Diego playing against the Padres, playing with the Rockies against the Padres, what is it, 15, 16 times. Obviously I'm not a fan of the Padres. Like, right? I want to beat them. Like, it's my job to beat them or driving the run. So, but coming back is special. And like, yeah, it is very cool. It's not just a stop on my journey. It's always going to be a time where I look back and remember, like, I was able to go back home and play for the Padres, who I was a fan of my whole life. So it is special for me. And to be here in camp, with the Padres throwing on the jersey every day is amazing.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Talking to Connor Joe here on Ben and Woods this morning. Had a chance to meet Connor years ago. We have a mutual friend, actually. Your agent's son is a guy I know, and one of my best friends, and got to go out and work out with Connor. And it's the worst. I mean, if you're like me,
not you, Connor.
Not you. Like, having to like hit and like field in front of them. Like, I was playing first. They were taking grounders and slinging them over there, and I was like, God, this is a different level, man. But you have had a health scare. You're a cancer survivor, and how are you feeling now? Is everything kind of out of the woods completely? How did that go, and what was that like?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. No. I love talking about it. No, I really do. I truly do. I think it's something that should be talked about and awareness about. But I'm healthy, and this is a big year for me because in July 20th, I will be deemed cancer-free for 5 years, which they call remission. So
amazing.
It's a big year for me. So far, so good with all the scans and the checkups. Obviously, like every year around that time of the scans, you get like something called scanxiety, which is very common for cancer survivors and people that go through that. But big year for me. I'm healthy and everything is really good.
And one child now?
Yes, I have a 2-year-old daughter.
2-year-old daughter, that's right. And more. Are you guys planning on trying to have more?
Yeah, God willing, we are. Absolutely.
Yeah, two is fun. Two is fun.
Yeah.
It's in theory, it's fun. And then you see it in action, and sometimes it's not as fun.
We both have two.
Yeah, it's not as fun as in action. But no, man, I've obviously followed your journey since. I'm so happy to hear that. That thing. It was testicular cancer.
Yes, it was testicular cancer. It had spread up to my lungs, and that's why it was diagnosed as stage 3. I had to go through chemo, and the whole process took about 4 months, but had great care and great help from doctors up at UCLA, and healthy now.
How much did the diagnosis upend your life? I mean, I'm sure it was a huge amount, but how did you deal with that being such a young age and right at the beginning of your professional baseball career?
Yeah. I think it just rearranged my priorities.
That's what I was going to ask. Perspective.
I think at that time felt like the worst thing that could ever happen to me in my life, right? And it most likely was. But looking back on the journey and looking back at everything that had happened, it really is one of the most powerful things that has happened to me, to my relationships with my wife, my parents, the support and the love around me. It's just really aligned my priorities and made me realize that like baseball is amazing and it's something that I get to do. And it's not something that is given, but the game was taken away from me. So now stepping onto the field, I'm grateful every time I take the field. I'm grateful every time we have to do PFPs or base running drills that sometimes felt monotonous before, having the game taken away from me. So looking back on it, helped me grow stronger with my wife, helped me grow stronger in my faith. So it's really something that I am grateful for and grateful that I went through.
Well, and now you join this team, and this team is expected to win, and that's, I mean, nothing against Pittsburgh. They're a team that I've actually followed for a couple of years that have some really good players. I mean, obviously Paul Skeens and Jared Jones and some really, really big arms. And now you're in with you were with the Rookie of the Year last year. You're in with the Rookie of the Year runner-up in Jackson Merrill. But this team is different, right? Is there more? Do you feel the expectations are raised now that you're in San Diego?
Yeah, 100%. And like you said, nothing against my previous clubs. But I think the one thing that I've been telling people coming into this clubhouse, there's one common goal between every single person in that club, and that's to win a World Series, right? Previous clubs around younger guys, maybe some guys were on board with making the playoffs. Maybe some guys were just wanted to break camp and debut for the first time. Not here. I think the very common goal in there is that World Series, and that's very apparent. And yeah, like you said, with the Pirates, very talented. We experienced great streaks of baseball where we're very successful and we experience winning, but I'm really excited to come here to a competitive team and where it's not just the playoffs, but it's above that. And the goal is the World Series, which is really cool.
Talking to Padres outfielder, infielder,
everything,
hitter, whatever they need. And before you sat down, we were discussing this Padres team is a very specific identity, especially under Mike Schild and Victor Rodriguez, of a team makes a lot of contact, hits for a high average, but doesn't walk a lot. Now, that's something that in your career you have done. You've gotten on base. What's your approach kind of at the plate, and are you making any changes as you're working with this coaching staff here with the Padres?
Yeah, every time you go into an offseason, you really dissect the season before, what could be better, what do I need to improve on? And for me personally, I believe that to get the ball in the air a little bit more, I hit a lot of ground balls, which is not a bad thing, but in the big leagues are normally outs, right? Obviously at Petco Park, the field's a little different where it's a fast infield. I believe those are going to be more hits, but in general, like an overall approach for me, I've always had a good awareness of the strike zone. I've worked a little bit in the offseason to get in my legs and to use my motor a little bit more to help impact the baseball more consistently. I think as far as talking to Victor, talking to the staff, just kind of making little adjustments based on the feedback we're getting from the games, right? Like off season, you in the cage a lot, you're hitting machine, you're block training, but we're not facing live pitching. Yeah. So to get that feedback from the game, whether you're a tick late or tick under the baseball, to make minor adjustments based on that. And that's what I'm doing with the staff, day-to-day basis.
And people always are interested in this. And I am, I think, to a certain extent, but it's not my job to have to go out and hit big league pitching. But, you'll hear people say, oh man, this team does it right with the way they have information and deliver information to you. I guess in comparison to other teams you've been on, how do the Padres rank for you?
Yeah, you know what? We haven't really dove into the weeds too much about the information just yet. I think they've kind of let me get my feet wet at camp and get immersed and get my body moving before.
Yeah, which is probably smart.
Yeah.
Day one, they're tracking everything you do.
Right. They're not, just throwing all this information at me. I do have a meeting with them today about some stuff that they're seeing, which is great. I'm really excited about that. But I think that's the right timing. I think, let me get some at bats under my belt and make like little adjustments on my own, and then hear what they have to say. So if we're having this interview tomorrow, maybe I'd have a little bit more information on that, but unfortunately we're not. So that's what I can say about that right now.
Last thing for me, obviously you played yesterday against the White Sox, and there'll be Cactus League games, but I like the inter-squad competition. And
So good.
You know, obviously the Padres have some big name pitchers. Who have you kind of gone up against on some of these backfields so far, and what stood out for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the one that sticks out, obviously, ton of great arms in this camp. Matt Waldron. Faced him early in camp, and I had heard about it from guys around the league, and unfortunately, or actually fortunately, we've never faced him in the big leagues.
Yeah.
But getting to see him was pretty cool, and I'm glad he's on my team. That's what I'll say about
Pretty
that.
nasty, huh?
Yeah. I think when me as a batter and the catcher both whiff on the same pitch, I think that just goes to show, how nasty the pitches are. Yeah.
Well, Connor, it is a pleasure to get to know you.
Yeah.
Good luck this season with the San Diego Padres, and thanks for sitting down with us.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. That was fun.
Don't
Joe.
let everybody from your hometown wear you out for tickets. Send them to your agent.
Ask Joe
Send them to your
Musgrove how he
agent's son.
deals with that. Yeah.
My agent will take care of everybody. Yeah.
Exactly.
Connor, Joe.